The opinions expressed in the following program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers nor Rogers TV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Talk Politics. I'm Deborah Hutchison in the Rogers TV studio. Our guest this week joining us via Zoom is Oshawa MPP Jennifer French. Welcome back to the show.
Well, thanks for having me. I don't feel like I've traveled very far. I'm still in my kitchen.
Let's start with, I guess, every day the numbers go up and up and up. Did you think, we are in the second wave, did you think it would be this short a time before we would be dealing with the second wave, and are we prepared to deal with it?
I don't know that I had any more insight than anyone else who has been following along, listening to the health experts who have been warning, and giving us sort of best practices to try and stave off that second wave. They talked about the fall, and here we find ourselves. Are we prepared?
I know that's a rather large question.
No, but you know what? I think that individuals and businesses and families have, by and large, been doing what they've been told. Sometimes it's been obviously confusing and mixed messages from the government, but I think we've been doing our best. Many of us have been doing our best to do our part. It's been very frustrating, I think, and certainly I'm hearing it back through the community, that it doesn't seem that the summer was spent planning for what seems to have been an inevitability with the second wave. But in terms of plans and strategies, whether we're talking about school, and that has just been, it's been a mess, and long-term care. We learned so much, or had the opportunity to learn through, unfortunately, what we've all been through the first time around, and now we're seeing ourselves kind of facing the same scenario, and the same circumstances. I mean, substitute Red Cross for military, and there still isn't that iron ring, and we all are worried that the planning didn't happen as it should have, and maybe we could have been in a better situation, it would seem.
Well, let's focus first on the long-term care. As we tape this on October the 14th, Andrea Horwath has issued a release urging the Premier to, as she says, come clean on the state of affairs in our long-term care facilities, as the Red Cross is once again being called in. Do you think in most people's minds, as we watch the numbers increase and slowly creep into our older population, there's that fear of, oh, here we go again?
There is, and the Red Cross, it'll be interesting because this part is new, right? It's not the military going in, it's the Red Cross this time, and so I don't know, we don't know where they're going to be deployed over time, because, and I think what Andrea was asking for is, we all want to know what this, I think it's the red list or whatever, but sort of their, the long-term care homes that the government is aware of as being already problematic. And no one knows what they are, right? So different long-term care homes are being surprised by, the government's decisions, or families are wondering if their loved ones are in a home that is sort of on a watch list, for lack of a better term. So, we're wanting transparency that isn't there. And the idea of the numbers creeping into these homes, unfortunately, what we saw last time is, if it gets in, there was nothing slow about it. And that is such a fear, is how can we respond as needed? What are our assurances that those supports are in place? And, with what we have endured and struggled with as a broader community in Durham region, I'm thinking, specifically of Orchard Villa, but with homes in the community and the families who've been devastated by the loss there. It is not only still fresh, it is ongoing, right? We never had that inquiry. We're having this commission. Families, are not feeling heard and are not feeling reassured. I mean, I'd love to see the accountability that we haven't seen, and certainly going forward, we're going to have to demand that accountability to make sure that our seniors get the care that they deserve, that families get the respect and involvement that they need. Anyway.
And of course, the NDP did recently come out with its plan to overhaul the long-term care system. Let's talk a bit about that. The plan number one on the list was overhauling home care to help people live at home longer so that they don't have to go to these facilities.
Well, and earlier during the pandemic, the government rushed through that bill, and you'll have to, sorry, I'm switching the numbers. It was 198 or 197. But anyway, the bill to change home care and sort of open the doors to privatization. And that was during the pandemic. So, you know, we're seeing the government signaling in the wrong direction. And I say wrong direction, yes, because I'm a New Democrat, but also I'm a member of this community, and I'm listening to the folks around me that want to see that, you know, the profits come out of home care, long-term care, but, you know, caring for seniors and those who need supports at home or in their home, which is the long-term care, right? So the plan that we brought out, you know, the big vision is get to where I believe it's sort of an 8-year plan that by the end we will have that public network of homes, because profits have no place in this. And I don't see that as being a partisan comment. I think people think if the government is going to put money in, you know, expecting a level of care, that care should be provided. It shouldn't go towards, you know, the shareholders. It should go towards care. And that on its face is sort of the basics. But yes, absolutely, the plan is out there, and I would encourage folks to check it out. And it's, you know, not just a New Democrat wish list. It reflects what we're hearing from medical and care community, from families. In fact, actually, the families in Pickering, many of whom who have been active and become advocates now because of the loss of their loved ones, they certainly are touting this plan and championing it because it reflects what they wish had already been in place.
And on their wish list was comprehensive inspections and a seniors advocate to ensure that you know, the situation never goes downhill again like it did before.
And the seniors advocate, that's a great idea. I mean, for crying out loud, how do we not have that? You know, and that's something that our plan is. I'm really pleased. I'm actually, you know, fairly emotional about it, because having been so personally invested, professionally invested, but it becomes personal when you're working alongside families who are grieving. Mm-hmm. So I value the plan and what we're putting forward, because it actually is a plan, and we're challenging the government to, you know, like, I don't know how you defend, you know, profit margins in the face of such poor levels of care and accountability. But something that I'm still pushing for is that the transparency, the accountability, you know, whistleblower protections, the idea that, you know, families should be involved in more in the process, different things that, and we saw it with Orchard Villa, but we're seeing it across the province, that operators of these private homes that have a long history of poor care, a long history of you know, bad inspections and orders and non-compliance. How on earth are they able to continue? You know, why are they still allowed to have a license? Why has this government never pulled licenses? You know, they've pulled 2 licenses, I think, in the past however many years. And that was because of financial, not because of poor care standards. And so, you know, fines aren't utilized. There's no incentive for these homes to actually make the changes and provide care, which is shocking, frankly. So I'm still chasing that because I really think accountability has to be part of, you know, caring for our loved ones
And what so many people say is shocking is that it has been like this for a long time, not just under the Ford government, which makes you shake your head.
Well, and this is true, right? When you open the door and you say, okay, there's money to be made, folks are going to come through that door with, with their eyes on the prize. And the thing is, the goal of long-term care should be care in the long term, right? And we're actually missing that. And so the NDP plan, I'm pleased with it. I think others would be. I'd love to get feedback, because it's a plan. It hasn't happened yet. When we're government, we can make it happen, but there's a lot of time that that we'll continue to work with families and stakeholders and those who know that we need minimum standards of care, that 4 hours a day of hands-on care, the seniors advocate, accountability, transparency, all of that stuff, whistleblower protections, all of that, right? So, and inspections, an actual inspection framework that is proactive, not just reactive. So, but these are conversations we've been having this entire pandemic and long before about the state of long-term care. So it is becoming more of a conversation though now, because people in the broader community are passionate about this, because it is their loved ones, it is their neighbors, it is, one day themselves.
That is true. One day it will be all of us. We only have about a minute left, but I want to start the conversation a minute left before we go to break, and I want to switch gears and talk about concerns in the school system. You recently conducted a community survey to hear from your constituents.
Which was great, and it was every time we put it back out there and invited folks to fill it out, we got great uptake, but wonderful feedback. People took the time to fill out, to write paragraphs, and we asked how they felt about the back to school plan, their thoughts and their connections to it, but it was about issues facing children and families. So we also heard about return to sport. We heard about the Ontario Autism program, and we heard about long-term care as well, because we kind of invited other feedback. And so we got a good sense from people that a lot of frustration about the confusing mixed messages, focusing on school, a lot of concern about class sizes, and that was early on. Now we're still seeing that's a concern, but it's the constant ever-changing, people are not feeling that their children are safe and secure at school. And so we're seeing across the province people pulling their kids, but we should be ensuring that every child has what they need and that the families have what they need to make the best decision for their families. And that is to ensure a safe and quality education.
And Jennifer, I'm going to hold you there. We have to go to a quick break. We'll be back with more of our conversation with Jennifer French after this.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Your mouth can do a lot of amazing things. And your mouth can save a life.
Hi, I'm Tom Wong. I'm just one of close to 1,000 Canadians in search of a stem cell match. We need your help.
A simple swab is all you need to register on the National Stem Cell Database. You could be the one to save a life. Find the hero in you.
Hi there, I'm Mark Grice, and I hope you'll tune in to an upcoming episode of my show, Mark Grice the Artist. I give you all the tips and tricks that you need to start off with a photograph like this, and I can turn it into a painting like this of this beautiful Baltimore Oriole, right here on Rogers TV.
I'm Eric Marchinosa's Cinema Scene in Review. Join me for a monthly movie roundup of new releases either in theaters or available to stream. See you next time in review.
Hi, I'm Jennifer.
And I'm Allison.
Coming up on the next parenting show, we're talking about how to overcome boredom.
I'm bored. Play with me. Maybe it's a good thing.
Only on Rogers TV.
Welcome back to Talk Politics. I'm Deborah Hutchison in the Rogers TV studio. Joining us via Zoom is Oshawa MPP Jennifer French. Jennifer, when we went to break, we had just begun to talk about concerns in the schools now that kids are back. The results of your survey, what were some of the concerns that really stood out for you?
Well, it was interesting because there were some standouts, but also some of the themes, that there were those who were very concerned from a safety standpoint and were and are continuing to be, I would assume, to be concerned about the class sizes, that they thought that they would be capped at 15. They thought they would be smaller classes, but then the classes, were collapsing and now they're large. So there were those that before schools actually resumed, they were flagging class sizes. They were flagging how on earth, can you space people in that room, hand washing, like the actual logistics of keeping them safe. But then we also heard from people who were saying, good, I need my kids to go back to school. They need to see their friends. They need it. I just need to know that it's safe. Like they weren't focusing on the details so much as just let me trust that my kids will be okay because, they need to be back at school. I've got to go to work. So not two sides of the same coin, but just different perspectives, because people do know that their kids were missing each other. And we all know how much children need that social and their teacher and each other. But bus, like the bus numbers, class size caps, the logistics about PPE, a lot of the younger parents of younger children that weren't having to wear a mask, that wasn't mandatory. And I know that board by board has they're implementing different policies, but a lot of just concern about what it would look like. So now we know what it would look like, and people are making tough decisions about whether to pull their kids out of classroom or leave them in the classroom or get on a waiting list for an in-person classroom. It's all very confusing. I think that the educators, the custodial staff, administrators, they are all rolling up their sleeves and doing their darndest. And I'm so grateful and I'm appreciative. The kids, my next door neighbor has some kids who are learning from home. And on the first day of back to school online, I asked how it went, and she said, I was really excited, but it was a mess. And I said, well, I think it was maybe a mess for everyone. And she said, but I made a new friend.
Oh.
And I asked about the logistics of how you meet a new friend online, with the different platforms. But the kids want so badly to do well and to be successful. And as long as we continue to fund education, fund what is asked for by the boards, ensure that that the families and households have access to the technology, the computers in some cases. We have to ensure that families are able to make the best decisions, and they shouldn't have to guess about safety or worry.
Yeah, I mean, what we've heard from parents, especially the parents of children at the elementary level, is they wouldn't worry as much if it was the same model as the high school, with cohorts and classes capped at 15.
Yep.
They could live with that. But 30 in a classroom, no thank you.
Well, 30 in a classroom, 70 or whatever on a bus, and then you've got other rules for other spaces, whether that's gyms or restaurant or people are, I think, this is my word, resenting the confusion. But it doesn't help people to feel safe. And I think that it's not going to help contain the spread. with, different spaces, different interpretations, and people, not having the information that they need, and their kids not having that continuity. And that's the other thing with the reorganization of classrooms is going to bring, the next headache as people keep pulling their kids out, and we're seeing that in other areas of the province, especially that those classes will continue to collapse and merge and all be reorganized in different areas. So it's anyway, we're in uncharted territory, and I think that the government needs to really do better in terms of investing and communicating, and really putting the kids and the parents, putting their learning at the fore, and working with the educators who are giving that feedback and doing unbelievable, amazing work, with a mask and a face shield, and trying really hard to create that learning environment that kids deserve.
How is it safe to be in a class of 30 kids or on a bus of 70 kids when for Thanksgiving we all were told to stay in our own households of 5, 6 people?
And the gyms and restaurants and clubs, I mean, everyone's paying attention to that because the numbers change, the rules change, there's a lot of confusion. But if you have a gym that's 20,000 square feet or a gym that's 500 square feet, it's the same same number of folks. It's just, the information is, it needs to be based on the science and on the best advice of the healthcare professionals, and it seems to be quite tangled. So we need to keep people safe. We need to keep businesses afloat. We need to keep people on a course that is, we're in the second wave now. I don't know any better than you do, Deborah, about what we're headed towards.
Let's quickly talk about electricity and the cost of power. At the end of October, there is the flat rate ends, and now households, customers are being asked to choose whether they want the time of use again, or the tiered pricing. Just one more confusion a lot of people don't need.
Well, and we kind of knew that this was looming. I know that our office will be very busy with people reaching out and seeking that clarification. I think that our utility folks are going to do their best to support people through that as they make the choice. But yeah, people are going to see an increase, which we've always known is coming, even though that's not, that wasn't what we heard from the government, but they kind of just put it off. But now it's going to be at the same time as this pandemic, and they hopefully we see the moratorium on disconnections be reinstated as we get into the colder months, because with people who've lost their income, who have uncertainty in their current situation, we can't imagine them not having the heat that they need. So that's another piece that we'll watch as it gets colder. But I don't have happy news on this front.
Okay.
But of course, my office is available. If people are seeking, clarification, we always work with the utilities to help out with some of these programs. But the government continued with the same plan as the Liberals. They shouted and jumped up and down about it, but they kept that same, the same arrangement. And so here's where we find ourselves. So.
Okay, we are almost out of time. We've only got about 3 minutes left. I want to get to your private members bill. You finally get to debate the 412 and the 418 tolls. Let's talk about that.
So this is obviously not a new issue, but continues to stick in my craw and in others, I think. Long time unfairness issue. So my Bill 43 has been before the House, for over a year. The government says it's doing a task force or something. The Premier, when he was in town, got asked and said he'd love to take the tolls off. So this is their chance to do it. My bill will come before the legislature, and we'll actually have the conversation and the debate. So mid-November is when I'm scheduled. And then it will come to a vote, and we will see. They will either vote to pass it, which would be in keeping with the 2018 election promises, what we've heard from the Premier and heard from the Minister, or they won't. And then they'll have some explaining to do. So I would like for it to pass. I would like the government to make the commitment and get it done so that we can, continue moving forward without the tolls. That's a fundamental fairness and cost issue for the folks across Durham region. And then on to the next, hearing from a lot of businesses, hearing from a lot of people about long-term care. So we're continuing to be an advocate on those fronts as well. And we didn't have the chance to talk about small business, but we continue with our Save Main Street plan, which echoes what we've been hearing across the province from businesses. Commercial ban on commercial evictions, rent subsidies, sick days for people, a special fund to help with, reopening costs and whatnot. But the things we've been hearing from business. So I've been a partner on that front and pushing, and we continue. So if there are any businesses out there, thank you. We miss you. This is an unbelievable time for them, and we really need to give as many of them that chance to continue to be, part of our heart and soul of the community. And that means actually investing in them and helping them through this time, especially as we're seeing other communities have to shut back down again. We need to give them the best chance that they can have.
There has been a lot of controversy over whether we should be closing down certain businesses. Your thoughts?
There is controversy. It's also the manner in which things are done that it's, a surprise. And the thing is, we've always known that the numbers, that we were watching the numbers and different measures. A business shouldn't get told right before a weekend when they've bought all of their, produce and supplies for the weekend. I think of restaurants, and then they get the bad news. We have to work with them as partners. It's not enough to wear the I love business on the t-shirt. The government does need to actually, we've put a plan on the table, the Save Main Street plan. If people want it, they can find it. It is basically a wish list. The CFIB, the Ontario Chamber of Commerce, the BIAs, they helped to design it. It is what they have asked for. And they're not asking for ponies and rainbows. They are asking for the basic tools to be able to survive. And so, there is a way of doing these things.
Okay,
And
I'm
the
going to
government...
have to stop you there. We're out of time. You're
Okay.
going to have to come back. Our thanks to Jennifer French, MPP for Oshawa, for joining us. Until next time, I'm Deborah Hutchison. Stay safe, everyone.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
What do I like? I like open fires, moonlit nights, chatty letters, rainy days. I like daydreaming. I love this colorful little island of ruby, emerald, and sapphire. Yet often my dark moods come. I'm possessed body and soul by this depression. They say women shouldn't write. Some days I almost give up. But I cannot contain my imagination. I made Anne real. I gave her my love of nature, my love of books, and my childhood dreams. My greatest happiness would be to climb the alpine path and write upon it a woman's humble name.
Lucy Maud Montgomery battled depression, rejection, and sexism to become known around the world for Anne of Green Gables and 19 other novels.
Family, it's just extremely important. People move around. Connected for Success has just made it so much easier. For the longest time, I was on cloud nine. It connects you to family.